Hi, I'm Nathan Rinard. I'm coming to you from Indianapolis, Indiana. And today we're going to be talking about rapid AI prototyping. We're going to talk about how we can take our raw data, we can provide it to Azure services, and then we can build a chatbot in under 30 minutes. Like I mentioned, my name is Nathan Reinard. I'm the Director of Product Development and Data and Analytics at Moser Consulting, primarily responsible for leading teams that are responsible for the development as well as the implementation of the Honeycomb platform. That is our analytics as a service solution that we provide to our clients. I'm also responsible for leading our advanced analytics initiatives, utilizing tools like AI, ChatGPT, Llama, LLMs, machine learning, etc. At Moser Consulting, we are a family-owned technology solutions provider. We've been around for about 28 years now. We have two offices in the Indianapolis area, one office in Baltimore. We serve markets, state markets, federal, local, education, and commercial through 5 divisions. So we have application services, so that's traditional app dev, .NET, open source development, etc. We have business services, so that's our BAs, our project managers, our Atlassian administrators, so Confluence, Jira, etc. Then we have core tech services, so it's managed services as well as anything that plugs into a wall, right? So it's servers, storage, networking, both on-prem and also AWS, Azure, utilizing tools such as Red Hat, etc. Then inside data and analytics, we actually have 5 departments. The first of which is analytics, so that's your traditional BI reporting, data engineering work, data visualization, storytelling, utilizing Honeycomb and off-the-shelf systems in Azure and AWS. And then within data, that's our DBAs. So we offer DB as a service, as well as traditional consulting for Oracle, SQL Server, Postgres, all the popular databases. Then we have governance and strategy, and then we have my department, product development, where Honeycomb, our managed service, sits. So the agenda for today, we're going to talk about AI adoption. We're going to talk about US Census Bureau, some data they collect, why that's important to us. Then we're going to talk about how the Azure OpenAI Studio solves some of the concerns identified in that Census Bureau report. We're going to talk about how we can bring our own data to make these LLMs more valuable to us. And then we're going to talk about how we can deploy our proof of concepts via Streamlet and get them in stakeholders' hands so they can start testing things out. So jumping into AI adoption, prior to a year ago, I thought the US Census Bureau just collected demographic data or geographic data, maybe housing data. Turns out they collect data across a multitude of domains. And as of a year and a half ago, this includes AI. So that chart in the upper left-hand corner, that is the chart in the upper left-hand corner, that includes the initial question that the Census Bureau was asking. And this was, are you currently using artificial intelligence? So as you can see, approximately 90% of respondents saying, no, they're not using some form of AI. And then it's a mix, about 50-50 between don't know and yeah, we're going to use that. This has kind of matured. The next iteration of this included questions such as, in the last 2 weeks, what did the business use to actually produce goods and services? So the question is a bit more refined. It's not, is Nathan using AI to wordsmith emails or knowledge documents? Is he actually using it to produce goods and services? And this kind of gave us a little more insight than the initial question. And then the most recent iteration of this is included kind of some deeper diving questions that I think are really meaningful to us. because they identify why individuals aren't interested in AI, right? So some of these are items we'd expect, right? So it's not mature enough. It's only been out for a year and a half. Maybe the stakeholder or the organization doesn't have a lot of knowledge around the capabilities of AI. Maybe they're in a domain where security is of the utmost importance, and the combination of that and the sense of immaturity in the platforms kind of leads them to think that AI is not for them. And then also, is there bias? Is it relevant data, et cetera? But I want to draw your attention to that bar at the bottom where a vast majority of respondents, over 80%, responded that AI is not applicable to their business. And I think this probably lumps into a few of the answers above, but I think this is a serious opportunity to kind of have conversations about what are some problems we're seeing, how are we currently doing reporting, what does the workflow of different divisions within the organization look like, how might we use AI to solve some of these problems, and then the rest of this session is going to talk about how we can rapidly prototype solutions for those so the investment up front to try all these ideas isn't as expensive. So let's jump into the Azure OpenAI Studio, and it is a part of a suite of tools called the Azure AI Services. Within these services, there's a multitude of offerings. Some of them include computer vision, the speech service, translations, document intelligence, metrics advisor, immersive reading. But the two we're going to look at today are the Azure OpenAI service and the AI search service. Once you go through the process and install the OpenAI service through the portal, you'll get access to the OpenAI service portal, and it looks like what you're seeing now. On the left-hand side of the screen, there's 4 or 5 playgrounds there that allow you to test different functionality from the OpenAI model. And then below that in the management section, it allows you to see what GPT models you have deployed and have access to within your environment. So is that 3.5, 3.5 Turbo, 4, 4.0, et cetera, the different embeddings models, all those will be available for you to try out. Specifically for this session, we are going to jump into the chat playground. So within the chat playground, the right-hand side there looks like the typical bot that you might use, whether that's OpenAI's ChatGPT or Claude or whatever it might be, right? And then that left-hand side in the setup portion, that's where we can try different system messages. So in this example, I told the playground that I was a data engineer and I'm prepping for a speaking engagement and I want to present on the medallion architecture. So I asked it a question and it was able to give me an outline in a format that best suited my needs based off that system message. If you were to hit the show panels button in that top right hand corner, there's an additional panel where you can dig into adjusting the temperature. You can change the model you're using. So if you want to try different configurations with different models, you can do that all from this one screen. There's just a drop down, you select a different model and you re-execute your question and see if you like those results more. That's awesome. And we've seen some very real benefits of that, right? So whether that's just content generation, whether that's image generation, whether that's bouncing ideas off the AI, right? So I have an idea and I want to iterate on different possibilities of how to execute it. I can use this AI for that, and it does really well. What it doesn't do great is situations where domain knowledge is required. And that's where bring your own data comes to play. So within the chat playground, in that system setup section, you can hit the bring your own data button and it'll pop up these screens. The first step will be to select the data source. There's approximately 6 options there. AI search, so that is what used to be called cognitive search. There will be an index living out there. Then there's blob storage, and that can be any number of things, right? So whether that's PDF, documents, raw text, images, etc., anything that you can upload to blob storage, you can process. Cosmos DB, Elasticsearch. The example today is going to be a web address, and then you could just upload a file, right? So if you don't want to deal with providing another location for these documents, you could just upload your documents straight into the chat playground for kind of a one-off test case in that way. Once the data is provided, in our case, we used the web address. We can then select what the search type we want, right? So the way this works, we selected the web address, we gave it honeycombanalytics.com. It reached out there, it scraped the data off of our website, it loaded it into an AI search index, and now we have the ability to search that index, and that's what we're configuring on the data management screen here. There's 3 different search types we can use: vector, hybrid, which is vector and keyword, or hybrid plus semantic. And you'll just want to choose whatever best fits your needs at the time. So this is what it'll look like after all that's processed. It'll create, like I mentioned, a search index. In this case, we named it Honeycomb. It downloaded 113 documents from our site and built out that index, and that is now available for the chat playground to utilize. So if we go back to the chat playground, we can ask it questions specifically about Honeycomb, right? So the question we asked it is, what is Honeycomb? And it was able to go back into its knowledge base, retrieve this information, and provide us with an answer. So if you go down to the third kind of bullet there where it says data-driven decision-making, you'll see that it's referencing a document there, and that document is the industries-1.html. That document is the document that it downloaded from the website. So this is really powerful for kind of fact-checking your bot, making sure it's not hallucinating. For stakeholders who are concerned about bias or lack of accuracy, it really allows them to get hands-on and kind of validate this data. This is also a good time to mention that the data that you have acquired is all private, right? It's all yours. You're not providing it to a third party. It all lives within your Azure tenant. Azure's not doing anything with it. It's no different than an Azure SQL database living out there. So whatever you provide, you can rest assured that that is safe and secure. And they actually have a PowerPoint that your rep could provide you that kind of goes through all the specifics about the security around the OpenAI service and how it works, even to the extent of that the prompts aren't used for anything, right? So everything you do with this service is private to you. So now we've created this chat playground, we've tested it out, we like it, it's doing what we need it to do, but now we need to get it in the hands of additional stakeholders to test it out and actually drive value from it. Streamlet is a good tool for that. It's low code, low initial investment to try it out in these first few phases, right? So what is Streamlet? Streamlet's an open source Python library. They were founded in 2019. They were acquired by Snowflake in 22. So that really grew their base, as well as the resources devoted to them, right? So the main principle with Streamlit is it makes web dev accessible to persons whose primary job function is not web development. So if that's data scientists, data engineers, whoever that might be, it's really a low barrier to entry to getting a web app up that's actually usable for these POCs types of projects. It's also important to note that it's easily deployed. So when you're initially doing development, you can launch it locally. It doesn't take a lot of resources to test it locally. Then you can deploy it. If you're a Snowflake customer, you can actually run Streamlit in Snowflake. It uses the same warehouses that your SQL loads utilize. It uses the same security. So the same types of administrative functions that you use today for Snowflake could be used for Streamlit. So there's a lower overhead there. Additionally, it can be deployed in Azure and AWS, just like any other web app, right? So if it's Docker or application services, whatever it might be, those are easily deployed to those solutions. A couple examples of what Streamlet could look like. Streamlet images were taken from their site. So really anything you might want to build, right? It's really a low code environment designed to get you off the ground really quickly, build POCs, test that the data is what you need it to be, test that the solution is what you need it to be. And then if you need it to be a more fully fledged web app, you can go that more custom dev route, or if you're going to deploy it to Teams or Slack, whatever the final endpoint might be, you can kind of think through that more at that time, but you don't have to invest in the time to build and the time to make those decisions immediately. You can work out and find out, is this solution actually going to benefit my business before you have to make those further decisions. Jumping into the code a little bit, this is an example. I just wanted to illustrate how low code it could be. So in approximately 36 lines, including import statements, spaces, and comments, we're able to ingest data from S3. I believe this example was taken from Streamlet.io as well. We're able to ingest data from S3, process that into pandas, and then we're able to deploy some visualizations, right? So this is a graph. There's a slider to adjust the scale, and then that's a fully interactive map at the bottom, right? With 36 lines of code, we have a map. We can zoom in, zoom out, scroll around, etc. So it's really powerful, really low code. It allows data scientists and data engineers to really concentrate on the things that they need to concentrate on while still giving them a mechanism to get the results in a stakeholder's hands. So tying it all together, if we think back to the chat playground, at the top of that kind of chatbot interface, there was a view code button. This view code button provides us, if we're just using a GPT model, it provides us with our OpenAI key. If we're using an Azure search index, it provides us with the OpenAI key as well as the search API key. In addition to that, it gives us a code snippet, and there's a drop down. You can select which language you would like it in. These languages include Python, C#, Java, JavaScript. There's several more. I'm not going to list them all, but it's really powerful because you don't have to go out to the web to kind of dig through documentation and figure out how to build this chatbot, right? So you can go in here, you can copy and paste this code, and then add a few Streamlet objects, and you can actually have this deployed in Streamlit. And the code examples are tailored exactly to what you're using. So as I mentioned before, there's an additional pane where you can adjust temperature and adjust model. All that's factored into this view code button. So the code is exactly what you were running in your example. So with that, we can jump out and look at what this might be if we were deploying it in Streamlit. This is going to be kind of a two-slide thing here. The first slide is really boilerplate code that is setting up connections. There at line 16, that is setting up the connection to the AI search service. And then at line 34, that is the code that connects to the OpenAI search service. So this is really all you need to set up connectivity between the two. And then the actual Streamlit objects are on this slide. And there's three that I want to call attention to. The first is the session state. So this is going to allow us to have multiple users in there storing the results that they're getting back from the AI search service. And then the two main kind of on-screen elements are the chat input and the chat message. So the chat input is going to be that text box at the bottom that we're used to, entering our prompts into. And then the chat message is kind of that scrolling response area that we're come familiar with OpenAI. So the way this kind of comes to fruition is we end up with a spot running a Streamlet. We're able to ask it a question, who is Moser Consulting? The workflow is we ask it a question, it goes out to the Azure AI service, so that LLM, It's going to do our natural language processing to understand our question. It's going to go out to the AI search service where it's going to hit that index of the data we pulled down from our website. It's going to return that data to the LLM. The LLM is going to process that, and it's going to come back with an answer. So in this case, it came back with its response to who is Moser, and there at the end, it included its references just like it did in the chat playground. Thank you for your time. If you want to scan that code and connect, I'd appreciate it. Take care.